Listening to the guide on the side. I'm Ivan, learning something new every day, through people I meet, books I read, places I go, and conversations I stumble into. I'm here to share those lessons with you. Let's get to the episode. You know what strikes me most about Maya Angelou? It's not just that she was brilliant, though she absolutely was. It's that she had this uncanny ability to make you feel less alone in the world. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone quote her words during their darkest moments, or seen her wisdom shared when people needed reminding of their own strength. There's something about her voice that cuts through all the noise of modern life and speaks directly to the part of us that needs healing. Maya Angelou wasn't born into the life that would make her one of the most quoted writers in history. She came into this world as Marguerite Annie Johnson on April 4th, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri, during an era when being a black woman in America meant navigating a landscape designed to diminish you at every turn. Her early life reads like a catalogue of traumas that would have broken many people: childhood sexual abuse, years of self-imposed silence, teenage pregnancy, poverty, racism so systemic it was woven into the very fabric of daily existence. But here's what's remarkable about Angelou's story. She transformed every wound into wisdom, every setback into strength. When she was just 8 years old, she was sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend. After she testified against him, and he was subsequently killed, young Maya believed her voice had literally killed a man. She stopped speaking for nearly 5 years. Can you imagine? A future poet, silenced by trauma, carrying that terrible burden of misplaced guilt. It was during this period of silence that she discovered books, diving deep into literature, memorizing poetry, absorbing the voices of writers who would shape her understanding of language's power. When she finally found her voice again, it came back stronger, more purposeful, infused with hard-won understanding about both suffering and resilience. Her journey through young adulthood was a masterclass in survival and reinvention. She worked as a cook, a nightclub performer, a dancer, even became the first black female streetcar conductor in San Francisco. She lived in Egypt and Ghana, learned multiple languages, raised her son as a single mother, all whilst developing the artistic vision that would eventually change American literature. The breakthrough came in 1969 with I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, the first volume of her autobiographical series. This wasn't just a memoir, it was a revolutionary act. Angelou wrote about childhood sexual abuse, about racism, about poverty, with a directness and lyrical beauty that had rarely been seen before. She refused to sanitize her experience or present herself as a victim. Instead, she showed us how a human being could be broken and still emerge whole. But why do we need Maya Angelou now? Why do her words still resonate so powerfully decades after she first shared them? I think it's because she understood something fundamental about human nature that we're still struggling to grasp. That our wounds don't have to define us, but they can absolutely inform our wisdom. In our current moment, when mental health conversations are finally becoming mainstream, Angelou's approach to trauma feels revolutionary. She didn't hide her scars or pretend they didn't exist. She examined them, learned from them, and then used that knowledge to help others navigate their own darkness. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you, she wrote, and in our age of suppressed emotions and social media facades, that insight cuts deeper than ever. What makes Angelou particularly essential right now is how she modeled authentic strength. Not the toxic positivity that dominates our wellness culture, not the fake it till you make it mentality that leaves people feeling more isolated than ever, but real resilience built on acknowledging pain whilst refusing to be defined by it. She showed us that you can be simultaneously vulnerable and powerful, wounded and wise. Her approach to identity politics was similarly nuanced. Writing during the height of the civil rights movement, she could have easily adopted a more militant tone. Instead, she chose something far more radical. She insisted on her full humanity. Her famous words about phenomenal womanhood weren't just about black women, or women in general. They were about recognizing the inherent worth in every human being, regardless of how society might try to diminish them. This is why her work transcends categories. Yes, she was a black woman, writing about black women's experiences, but her insights about resilience, dignity, and self-worth speak to anyone who's ever felt marginalized or diminished. I've seen her words quoted by people from every conceivable background because she tapped into something universal about the human experience of struggle and recovery. There's something else that makes Angelou indispensable: her understanding of forgiveness, both of others and ourselves. She lived through experiences that could have hardened her heart permanently, yet she emerged with a capacity for compassion that seems almost superhuman. She didn't forgive because the people who hurt her deserved it, but because she understood that carrying hatred would poison her own soul. In our current culture of outrage and cancel culture, this perspective feels both challenging and necessary. Angelou showed us that you can acknowledge harm without being consumed by anger, that you can seek justice without abandoning compassion. She demonstrated that forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. Her relationship with spirituality offers another model we desperately need. Angelou was deeply religious, but her faith wasn't narrow or exclusionary. She found wisdom in multiple traditions, understood that the divine could speak through many voices. In our polarized world, where religion often divides rather than unites, her inclusive spiritual vision feels like a breath of fresh air. What strikes me most about Angelou's continuing relevance is how she understood that healing isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. She didn't pretend to have overcome all her challenges or achieved some state of permanent enlightenment. Right up until her death in 2014, she was still growing, still learning, still becoming. This approach to personal development feels much more sustainable than the quick-fix solutions that dominate our self-help culture. Her influence on language itself cannot be overstated. Angelou had this gift for taking complex emotional truths and expressing them in ways that felt both poetic and accessible. Her words have become part of our collective vocabulary for discussing trauma, resilience, identity, and hope. When someone says, "But still, like air, I'll rise," they're not just quoting a poem, they're claiming their own power to overcome whatever circumstances are trying to hold them down. But perhaps what we need most from Maya Angelou right now is her example of how to age with grace and purpose. In a culture obsessed with youth, she showed us that getting older could mean becoming more ourselves, not less. Her later years were marked not by retreat or bitterness, but by continued growth and generosity. She kept writing, kept teaching, kept inspiring right up until the end. The timing of her prominence also matters enormously. Angelou's major works appeared just as second-wave feminism was gaining momentum, as America was grappling more honestly with its racial history, as therapy and self-reflection were becoming more mainstream. She provided a voice for conversations that society was finally ready to have, but hadn't quite found the language for yet. What makes this particularly powerful is how she modeled intellectual curiosity throughout her life. Despite having her formal education interrupted by trauma and poverty, she became one of the most learned people of her generation. She spoke multiple languages, studied various cultures, engaged with ideas from diverse traditions. She showed us that education isn't just about degrees or institutions. It's about maintaining an open, questioning mind throughout your entire life. In our current moment of political division and social upheaval, Angelou's example of how to engage with difference feels crucial. She didn't shy away from difficult conversations, but she approached them with curiosity rather than hostility. She understood that changing minds requires touching hearts first, that the most powerful arguments often come wrapped in stories rather than statistics. Her legacy in popular culture has been somewhat sanitized. You're more likely to see her uplifting quotes on inspirational posters than to encounter the full complexity of her thought. But even this simplified version of her wisdom serves a purpose. In a world that can feel overwhelmingly dark, Angelou's voice reminds us that survival is possible, that growth is achievable, that our current circumstances don't have to determine our future possibilities. Perhaps most importantly, Maya Angelou teaches us that our stories matter. Not just the pretty parts, not just the success stories, but all of it. The struggles, the mistakes, the moments of doubt and fear. She showed us that there's power in naming our experiences, in refusing to let others define our narratives, in claiming authorship of our own lives. In the end, we need Maya Angelou because she understood something essential about the human condition, that we're all walking each other home. Her life and work remind us that no one gets through this world without wounds, but those wounds don't have to be the end of the story. They can be the beginning of wisdom, the foundation of compassion, the source of strength we didn't know we possessed. Every time someone quotes her words during a difficult moment, every time her wisdom helps someone find their voice or reclaim their power, Maya Angelou continues to rise. And in a world that still tries to cage too many spirits, we need that reminder more than ever. That is it for today. You've been listening to The Guide on the Side, where I share what I'm learning from people, books, and conversations. I hope something here stays with you, sparks a thought, or opens a door. I'm Ivan, and I'll be back soon with more. Until next time, may your days be full of curiosity, and I'll see you in the next episode.